Greetings everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm your host Captain Rye, and today's video comes to us courtesy of Slarty Bartfast85. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing your name right, and for the purposes of this video I'm just going to call you Bart. Bart is playing in my favorite Tier 9 destroyer, the USS Fletcher, here in World of Warships. As the battle is already getting underway here, it's the mountain range map, it's a domination match mode, and Bart has spawned closest to the A cap point, which is where he's going to go. Now Bart's team already starts off with a destroyer advantage, starting off with 3 destroyers to the enemy's 2. Anytime Matchmaker likes to give you a destroyer advantage like that, you definitely need to utilize it, and in this particular case, they're utilizing it well here, where they've got 1 destroyer has gone to the A cap point, 1 destroyer has gone to the B cap point, and one of their destroyers, if you look at the minimap, is currently scouting the C cap point, where a lot of the enemy seems to be headed. Now, I'm not sure why the enemy has decided to head there in mass. It's not normally the case, but as you can see, that's going to cause their team to split into 2 different large groups. And given that they've only got 2 destroyers here, that's not a particularly good thing. And it's not a good thing because it means 1 destroyer has to stay with each group, which reduces the chance that they are going to be able to coordinate their efforts to torpedo people. And it also means that if that 1 destroyer gets a little too far forward or gets isolated from the group, they can very quickly and very easily be picked off. And if there's one thing that I love about the Fletcher, is that it is a particularly good boat for picking off enemy destroyers, especially very damaged ones. Now, Bart here is going to play the Fletcher like I like to play the Fletcher, and that is primarily as a torpedo boat first. And you can see here, he's got the captain's skill for that torpedo reload skill. And he's definitely got the torpedo reload module, because the reload time on this particular boat is only 120 seconds, which is incredibly fast. Effectively, with those skills, with the module, you can get the reload on the Fletcher's 10.5 kilometer torpedoes, and they are fast torpedoes, down to 81 seconds. And for a torpedo boat, that's incredibly quick. Not even the Japanese Tier 9 has a torpedo reload that fast, unless I believe you forego the smokescreen in favor of the torpedo reload module, and even then, I'm not sure the Yugamo has that. I know the Kagero does, and I know the Japanese gunboat line does, but just naturally though, for a base reload, the Fletcher has got it going on. Now, those first set of torpedoes, unfortunately, do not connect with any target. I'm not entirely sure what exactly he was hoping to hit out there, with the exception of that enemy battleship that was kind of trying to play peekaboo with the island. Of course, at that kind of range, you're never going to be sure that the battleships are going to stay there. Sometimes they decide to continue reversing, and sometimes they decide now is their opportunity, and they're going to push forward. The enemy team has managed to capture the C cap point. They've also managed to kill one of Bart's destroyers on his team, and they're in the process of capturing the B cap point. But because Bart's team had those 2 cap points for as long as they did, they actually have a points advantage in spite of the fact that they were down 1 ship. Now, they've managed to take out a cruiser. That's going to adjust the points in their favor here and give them even greater advantage, going into the fact that now they've got to deal with recapturing the B cap point. Now you can see Bart's team is also split into effectively 2 groups, but the vast majority of his team has actually gone to the other side of that ridge line, that mountain range there, over to the B and C cap points, with only a small number of them back on the A side. And since it's apparent that there's not a destroyer on the A side, this is actually an okay thing for them to do, because there's not a risk of being torpedoed. Now, speaking of a risk of being torpedoed, Bart manages to connect 5 torpedoes on that enemy Yamato. Only causes 1 flooding there, which is a little disappointing. I don't know if that's because the first torpedo caused a flooding and the Yamato immediately hit his repair key, or if he just got unlucky and that flooding came at the very end. In either case, the Yamato definitely hit his repair key, and so that's going to be on cooldown. If you are in a position where you can then shoot at that Yamato and set him on fire, that's always an advisable thing to do. and something you should consider coordinating with, say, a Russian cruiser with, because you can go in and you can drop the torpedoes on him, and you can tell that cruiser, alright, torpedoes hit, flooding caused, set him on fire, and then you can simply burn him down while he's unable to do anything. Bart detected here as the enemy Z-46 comes out of his smoke screen, so Bart's going to go ahead and open up. Now this is what I'm talking about. This is a low health Z-46. He's popped out within 7 kilometers, the optimal range for the guns on the Fletcher, and he's able to finish that Z-46 off there, partly because the Z-46 was otherwise distracted. Now, of course, in doing so, he was detected. He's well within his gun range with those other ships there, so he's going to remain detected. It's part of that bloom mechanic, that detection mechanic with your gun bloom. And you can see the amount of fire coming in here. Destroyers are, as I always say, and should be, your priority target. Anytime a destroyer pops up that's detected, you should definitely be shooting at him. And especially something like the Fletcher, because the Fletcher is such a potent boat. Not only can it gun you down if you're low health, as we've seen time and time again, but it can also get those very, very powerful torpedoes. In fact, these torpedoes do something like 20,000 damage maximum compared to the Gearing's torpedoes, which don't quite measure up. So the torpedoes are even more potent in a Tier 10 game than the Tier 10 US destroyer. At this point, the teams are actually identically equal on points. They're both at 531 points, but Bart's team is finally in the position to recapture the BCAP point, and they're not being contested at the BCAP point, partly because of the position that most of the enemy team is at. Now, the enemy team has managed to kill yet another ship, but you can see here the enemy team that was over by the A cap point has finally decided that this is not where they want to be, especially because they've lost one of their 2 destroyers. So they're all starting to transfer over to the other side of the map. And that's going to take time, and it's going to leave them exposed to being shot at from the rear. And in this case, Bart's going to take the opportunity to push up here between these 2 islands while they get repositioned, and effectively just dump more and more torpedoes into them. And if you find yourself in this situation, especially in a US destroyer, this is a great situation to be in because you're just able to farm that damage. And while kills are important, especially as your team continues to lose ships, farming the damage and getting those ships very, very low health, making them easy kills for the rest of your team, is incredibly useful. I find that it's really wasteful when you hit a battleship broadside on with 5 torpedoes and only 1 was needed to kill him, and not even 1 was needed to kill him. Rather, when you hit a battleship broadside on with 5 torpedoes, don't quite kill him, and then he's a one-shot kill for your friendly battleships. Sure, you don't get the kill, but you do get all that lovely, lovely damage. At this point, Bart's team is in an okay position here. They definitely do need to regroup, probably regroup towards the BCAP point, but there's still 1 enemy ship that's back down on the far side of A, hiding in those islands. And that 1 ship is a cruiser, and he's facing down, I think, a couple of battleships. Unfortunately, Bart misses his torpedoes on the Iowa. That Iowa was definitely not going full speed there with that first launch, and then was able to speed up and avoid those torpedoes. That's always disappointing when you do it. You're never sure. And, of course, at these kinds of ranges with this kind of situation, it can always be a bit of a trick. Do you fire on the lead indicator? Do you short them? Do you long them? If you're not sure, one thing I can recommend, you see that center line there on that lead indicator here as he gets torpedoes off at the Montana. If you've got both sets available, you can do a short and a long here. So basically you short half and you long half. So you line up your launcher so that half of that launcher is right on the line going to the aft of the indicator and the other half forward. That's going to give you a nice huge spread. Yeah, you're not going to sledgehammer anybody, but you're probably more likely to get hits on somebody if they're constantly varying their speed, or maybe they're, you know, weaving a little bit. You're more likely to get some action. Enemy team has recaptured the BCAP point, and at this point they're really up on points here. They've managed to kill 5 ships, and it's now just Bart and 1 enemy destroyer left in the game. But Bart manages to connect 3 torpedoes on an enemy ship there, and I think those were from the first ones and those would have hit the Montana. The second set of torpedoes manages to connect 2 on the enemy Iowa and finishes that Iowa off. So at the very least, they're able to pull it back just a little bit, but they definitely need to get up in here, and they need to get the B cap point. Because, again, the enemy team, 2 points here, so they're gaining those points really, really fast. And anytime you can gain those points at double the speed of your enemy, you are in a commanding position. It allows you to be a little bit more aggressive in pushing if you want, because you can afford to lose some ships, but it also forces the enemy team to have to be more aggressive to push up, so you can just sit back in a commanding position and cause problems. Now Bart pushes up here into the B cap point. He is capping. Enemy team manages to lose another battleship there. Friendly Iowa takes out the enemy Iowa, but at the cost of yet another ship. The enemy Kagero takes out a friendly Iowa. So at the very least, we know that the Kagero is somewhat active out and about here. Now, because it's a Kagero, it's a tier 8 destroyer versus a Fletcher. Even if the Fletcher is fairly low health, that Kagero is going to have a serious problem if Bart runs into him, especially because of the detection range. And as I mentioned, that sub 7 kilometers, I see too many people opening up on light cruisers like the Minotaur or even heavy cruisers, but also on small, tiny targets like destroyers with their Fletchers at ranges greater than 7 kilometers, and your guns are just not going to accurately and adequately hit and penetrate. Yeah, you might set some fires, but it's not going to do a lot of damage, and it's just going to reveal your position to everybody else. Instead, you keep that concealment down at that 5.8 kilometer range, and you wait until you're basically detected, until the enemy is right on top of you, and then you open up with them on, and then there's nothing they can do. There's no recourse for them to escape your wrath. Bart is detected here, but he can't see what's detecting him. That's a good indicator that it's going to be the enemy Kagero. But you can see here, enemy Des Moines out in the open here has spotted the smoke screen, is now well aware that there's an enemy destroyer in front of him, has popped his radar. And Bart's going to go ahead. He's popped his smoke screen because he was detected by the Kagero, but as soon as he got detected by that radar, what's he done here? He's hit his speed boost, and a lot of people in the Fletcher don't take the speed boost. They'd rather have that defensive fire consumable, but the speed boost, very useful here to avoid getting hit massively. So what he's doing here is he's opening up the distance. And fortunately for him, he was able to open up the distance. The radar was only short-lived, so the radar is now off cooldown. But you can see there all the shots that he took there. A lot of damage there. That's why I say when you get detected by radar, don't sit in your smoke screen and expect that that radar is going to end before everybody finishes you off. There's a Minotaur in the back there. There's that Des Moines. There's battleships around. Pretty much everybody was shooting, and that is a very good way to end up dead quickly. The enemy team now in the danger zone here. 4 points. They're above 900 and they have 2 caps. They're well up on ships here. This is a bad situation, and it now requires the team to coordinate. They have to kill something. And as you can see here, shots going on the Kerr first, but that's not where I would have been shooting. I would have had all your shots focusing heavily on that Des Moines because he was low health and he had radar, which is very dangerous to your destroyer. Now, once again, Bart detected he gets a little too close to this Kerr first, and unfortunately for him, he doesn't have his smoke screen to hide behind, and more importantly, his speed boost is about to go on cooldown. And while the Fletcher is definitely faster than the Kerr first, it's not fast enough in its regular mode to open up the distance enough to get off of detection before you're going to take a massive hit from all of the Kerr first secondaries. It's like having a cruiser. Fortunately, the Kerr first not paying very much attention to the fact that, well, there's an enemy destroyer in front of him who was well within torpedo range, probably got torpedoes away there, and the Kerr first meets his end. Other good news is his team has managed to pull it back. So they've managed to kill a good number of ships here. They're actually up on points now, and Bart manages to connect yet another torpedo, this time on the rune. So that rune now incredibly low health, and hopefully will be a very easy kill for the friendly battleship that's actually not far away from him. and that's the Conqueror, and you can see the Conqueror finishes off that room with high explosive there. So with that said and done, now he's just got a Kagero, he's got a cruiser, and he's got a battleship. Now, we don't know how much health the Kagero has, and in this situation, I wouldn't want to engage the Kagero with having this limited amount of health. Yeah, you could probably do a significant amount of damage to him if he's full health, but he is more than likely going to be able to kill you with his shots unless he's not maneuvering very well. Now, if you're heavily maneuvering and he's heavily maneuvering, his shots are going to be definitely less accurate. He's not going to be able to get nearly as many of them onto you as you are to him, because the Fletcher's guns can track while maneuvering. But it's still not an engagement that I would want to take, at least not by myself. So, in this case, I would probably be heading up to where the Conqueror is to assist in the capture of B, especially because you can see a smoke screen has popped up there. That's an indicator of exactly what's there. That's going to be the enemy Kagero. Possibly the enemy Neptune laid that smoke screen, but I would say that the Kagero is more than likely out there. Now, Conqueror gets hit by torpedoes here. He's going to take shots in from that Montana, and unfortunately does get taken out by the Montana there. However, they take out the enemy Neptune, so now it's just the Montana and the Kagero left. Bart's team is finally up in the 900 points range, but again, the enemy team still holds 2 of those caps here. And even though Bart's team has 4 of those ships, they still have a sneaky destroyer to deal with and a couple of low health ships. So those ships are going to need all the help they can get. And with 2 caps and the amount of time left, there's always a possibility that the enemy team could pull it back and gain the requisite points, especially if they manage to kill a ship. So Bart's going to go ahead, he's going to head into the C cap point, where he knows the Kagero wasn't, and probably is going to be very unlikely, because there's a lot of more juicy targets, that Zhao, that Yamato, back over there. So he's going to go ahead, head into the C cap point, and he's going to be here in the C cap point. And from the looks of it, it looks like the Kagero may have gone actually up and around to the other side towards the A cap point here. Not a lot of time left in this battle here. Bart has done an incredible amount of damage, 174,000. That's always very good. I think the server average for the Fletcher's 30,000, and I consider a good game for me when I play this ship to be about 74,000. So to get 174,000 is a very, very well done job indeed. Plus all of those torpedo hits. Now the question is Bart going to be able to secure the C cap point before they run out of time, before they cap out on points? Is that going to be a possibility? And the reason I ask that is because sweet, sweet capping XP. Get that solo base capture in. Yes, he does it, and that's going to set him over for the victory. Again, 174,000 damage done in that game, 384,000 credits. Not too many credits earned there, but at tier 9, that's still technically a profit. Only award is a Confederate medal for hitting all of those various ships. Again, 14 torpedo hits, 2 solo base captures, and 3 kills. Only 11 gun hits, though. Very surprising to see in an American destroyer, but a very well-played game nonetheless. Of course, with that amount of damage and 2 solo captures, that's going to put him top of the team for XP earned, and rightly so, at 2,400 base XP. However, the next nearest guy on the team was second on the team for XP earned at 2,200 base XP, that Yamato, and the Zhao, number 3 on the team, almost earning 2,000 base XP, and the number 4 guy on the team almost earning 2,000 base XP as well. A very high scoring game for the team in general. Anyway, that's it for today's video, folks. If you like the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me and the channel, you can become my supporter on Patreon. If you've got a replay like this one that you'd like to see featured on my channel, you can do so by sending it to my email. And if you'd like to watch me play various games live, you can do so by following me on Twitch. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below, and as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.